When I say that motorcycles saved my life, it was the multifaceted thing. The situation in my marriage was unhealthy. I was slowly kind of rebuilding the Jacinta that was from this pile of brokenness, and it was the motorcycles that enabled me to do that and to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it was through motorcycles that I was able to escape that heavy situation. So yes, motorcycles saved my life. Hi, I'm Jacinta Siracusa. You might know me as MotoDoll. I love my bikes and have been riding for 20 years. Growing up, I was always a bit of a rev head. I got into riding when I was 21. The first bike that I owned and learnt to ride on was a ZZR 250. I was a big MotoGP fan. And then from the 250, I stepped up to a 749, a Ducati, which was a massive step up. But that was my favourite bike. It was yellow and it had the really cool double headlight. I felt $1 million riding that bike. It was like a MotoGP bike. I purchased a BMW G650 Cross Country, so not a very common bike. It was the ugliest bike I've ever owned, but it was the bike that I did the most amount of riding on. I worked on a festival around MotoGP weekend, and part of that was using Instagram. I discovered Instagram through that gig. I saw all these amazing women on this social media platform with motorcycles and all these cool bikes, and it was inspiring. It was just something that was motivating and inspiring for me at a time when it was pretty dark. And I had a friend who was a photographer, and he said to me, "Hey, don't you ride motorbikes?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I used to." And he's like, "Well, can you ride?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I can ride." And so he suggested that I get some bikes and we go and do a photo shoot. And we got Thruxton. So we got 2 Thruxtons from Triumph, Australia, and we went and did a weekend shoot. And we came back with these blurry photos because he was a fashion photographer, not a motorsport photographer. And then that's where MotoDoll sort of burst from. I was searching to find something that I had lost. So the name was important for me, and I wanted it to be motorcycle specific and focused, because that was the thing that I missed most, was motorbikes and riding. And I wanted it to be feminine. I wanted to combine those 2 things, which were the 2 main things that I was missing and needing in my life at that time. So moto and doll were those 2 words that I felt expressed that, and that's where the name came from. This is the bike that I did the shoot on. I bought this bike that I did that first ever shoot on when I was in that time. So this bike means so much to me for that reason. And that's why, you know, a Thruxton is a Thruxton, but this particular bike is special. 865 is the actual spec, but they're known as the 900. And it's a fuel-injected motorcycle, even though it looks like it's got a carby. It's a fake carby. Shh. So the wheels on it are Thruxton R wheels, so they're smaller than the original, but wider. Like, I've done so many hours on that bike that it's like an extension of me. So when I'm riding that Thruxton, I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. I'm not thinking about clutching and gearing and braking, and I'm just riding. And yeah, it's the only bike that I feel like that on. The rear tyre is bigger, which means that there's a lot more rubber on the road, which means you can corner a lot harder, and the suspension is a lot stiffer now too. There's beautiful roads in this area on the mid-north coast where I'm living. Mountains, twisties. I love sweeping corners. I don't mind the odd hairpin, but definitely the fast sweeping corners, they're my favourite. I think if you were to ask me and I was to describe myself, I wouldn't say that I'm a driven person, but when I look at the things that I've done and if I look back at the things that I've accomplished and achieved, I have to be a driven person. A big part of the motivation to keep MotoDoll alive is to just encourage women of all ages and from all walks of life that, you know, if I can do it, you can do it too. We're all able to do whatever it is that we put our minds and our hearts to.